Company's an animal that's trying to survive. It's struggling and fighting just to keep itself alive. I must keep figuring, I'm figuring, I'm figuring. Though figuring is triggering more figuring. I won't stop figuring. I'm figuring, I'm figuring. And figuring is triggering more figuring.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank, another round of the Life of Scrooge Redux, Part 11, The Empire Builder from Calisota. So, this is a big one. This is where I think we reach absolute cinema for the Life of Scrooge series. This one here is really about Scrooge's character, and we we really get this in a lot, especially for Disney characters, a form of character regression, and the idea that where characters are supposed to progress and be better versions of themselves. This story is about Scrooge sort of reaching his lowest point and then sort of breaking even by the end of it. Or at least rather setting up the Scrooge we know from Christmas on Bear Mountain to who he is going forward from there. What I liked about this story reading it again was seeing that actual story. Like when I first read The Life of Scrooge, I read it out of order. So there's a lot you miss. I was also like 10, 12 ish. Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't really thinking that much about it. I'll admit it. I'll admit it. But there is something to be said when you read this from start to finish in the order it's presented in. You do see Scrooge change. And what's really hard to narrow about character progression, character regression, is it has to make sense. And thankfully, Rosa puts in the effort here. So let's get into it because this is a big one. This is a big one. So when we last left off, we saw Scrooge had arrived in Calisota in Duckburg with his sisters Hortense and Matilda, and they've set up the money bin and everything's set. So since he's arrived there, he's begun building his empire. He doesn't just want to be a billionaire. He wants to ascend to the top. He wants to be Hokage, King of the Pirates, Pokemon Master, um, the Wizard King. I'm sorry, the world's richest man, super rich, to go beyond regular rich. So for the past several years, he's been globe-trotting, prospecting for minerals, establishing business. He's been playing the long game, so to speak, or doing the actual work. While his sisters Hortense and Matilda do the day-to-day workings of his empire. So one day he arrives back, courtesy of shipping himself with a cannon from the Boer War, which will play a role in later comics for years to come. Um, he's like, "Hey, I'm back. How we doing?" And what's interesting about this is what you're going to see for the next couple of panels, and I want you to notice it. All right, so Hortense and Matilda, like, they're happy to see him. Like, okay, are you back for good? He's like, no, no, not at all. I am not back at all. I just came to see how you guys are managing my empire. All right. He's like, okay, so what's going on here? So, of course, there is a chart, and like it's right there. So he looks, he's past Richard William Randolph Hearst, the uh, newspaper mogul. I'm like, okay, so that means there's like, what is it, 73 more people to pass. Hortense points out you're just getting richer and meaner and ornier. And Scrooge, like, yeah, that's the name of the game. That's how it works. All that matters now is how the bin's filling up. And it's past the 8 foot mark. So there we go. It's like, okay, everything's going good. Hortense says, like, you should stay here and run the business. Let someone else do the globe trotting. And I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. That's a bad idea. All right. This isn't to say Hortense and Matilda aren't capable. But as Scrooge points out, nobody has the true grit he's developed in the years working here. And you can say it takes more than true grit, but yeah, that's true. But it does take grit to make it out in that world, all right? Because he's not just digging for stuff. He's making business deals. He's carrying off his name. He wants to create all these businesses from the ground up himself. which makes sense. Hortense and Matilda don't know how to do that, but at the same time, he's also trusting them to handle the day-to-day affairs of his slowly building world empire. So, to make up his mind here, either they're capable or they aren't. And let's move the camera over here. Yep, yep. There is a story he tells, like, hey, one day I was just having a drink, all right, getting some breakfast, some lunch, and guess what? The Dalton boys came in. Well, the McViper boys came in trying to rob me. I fought them off. Boop, 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 doop. All right, you guys can't do that. All right. Um, it is what it is for this story. Take it or leave it as to how valid this is, or this is just day to day Scrooge's life. But anyway, as he's going through it, he's like, who was this? Who was this woman here? All right. And she's like, Emily Quackfaster. All right. She's his new secretary. And she was like, I can't afford a secretary. I am running a world empire. Millions, even billions of dollars a day being raised here. I can't afford a secretary. Horton says, like, we've hired an entire office staff. We cannot run this entire business ourselves. I don't know what made you think we could do this. All right. Hortense isn't even done there. Like, you know what? No. So, we're tired of hanging around here while you traps the globe. Next time we're going with you. All right. Scrooge's like, we can't leave total strangers in charge of my money. And Hortense like, no, my fiance Quackmore will be the office manager. I'm like, okay. And we get a moment from Scrooge here. His greedy hope for an inheritance will keep him honest. I'm like, okay, fine. It'll do you too good to see what it takes to be me. Gives a nice threat to Quackfaster, like, you know what? If anything happens, it's coming out of your salary. And he's like, we're going back to Africa. Now let's pause our story here for a bit. And something I wanted to talk about what's happening in the past couple of panels here. You may not notice it. You may not notice it. It's one of those blink and you miss it kind of things. But from the moment he shows up on the comic page, he has not smiled at all. Like he's seeing his sisters again, not a word. He's like, I'm here for business. He does not come to see his siblings and come and talk to them. He just came to like, I'm here to check. All right, he was more likely going to leave as soon as he finished checking the figures and everything. All right, so this tells you something else here. He doesn't really trust them. All right, look, I can't trust you to handle this efficiently, so I'm going to come check the work. And in one instance, that makes sense, but he's also going over all the numbers and everything here, and he doesn't trust Quackfaster. And even in regards to Quackmore, his soon to be brother in law, he's like, look, he wants an inheritance, it'll keep him honest. It's showing you a bit of his cynicism, a bit of his um, distrust of his fellow man, and it's something I want you to keep in mind going forward. So anyway, we are in Africa. All right, the beginning of Scrooge's true descent to madness. All right, and a bit of cultural insensitivity. So so Scrooge has arrived with his sisters. They arrived in the shady part of darkest Africa. As a symbol of his new treaty, he is given a miniature wardrobe. All right. And the chief asks, like, hey, what treasure will you give the Guac tribe for our Kachunga diamond mine? I'm like, okay, a diamond mine. He says, a portrait of the chief of my village. I'm like, oh, okay, what's it? It's a it's a quarter. All right. And the chief's like, oh, that's so cool. He's like, so tell me, chief, any other valuable lands in these parts? He says, like, well, there's some exit rubber plant land, but the voodoo tribe, they believe it's sacred, so they don't come off it, not even for something like this. And she was like, that's great. That's great. I will deal with him myself. All right. I'll give him an offer they can't refuse. And I want you to really look at exactly what's going on here in that bottom right panel. All right. Hortense and Matilda's like, he does not realize what's happened. He does not realize that Scrooge has cheated this man. Hortense is like, you what? You know better. You infinitely know better. Matilda's worried about the chief. Hortense is like, you, no. And so later, when they get to the tribe, to the village, Hortense points it out here. 25 cents for dynamite. You don't do business like that. Scrooge points out, hey, he was happy, I was happy. Um, and Hortense is like, you've turned mean enough to justify anything. And for the first time, she is ashamed of it. And Matilda comes in. Honesty is the best policy. Scrooge sort of lashed out, like, "Don't spare me, all right? It took him 20 years to strike it rich because he always played it square. He has developed new methods, all right?" And it is interesting to see how angry he is, all right? He says, "Spare me everything." Like, there is this sort of idea that he knows what he's doing is wrong, but he needs to justify it. That's why he's so defensive right here. So anyway, he calls people hillbillies and tells them to open up the gate. They drop a melon on him, and Hortense is laughing. Matilda's like, "Well, I guess they know how to treat you with proper respect." Scrooge threatens to tear the place apart, and next thing you know, he falls through a hole in the ground, or trap, and he is greeted by Fula Zula, leader of the tribe, and he's like, "Hey, man, you've been talking a lot of junk. You want to talk? You want to talk? Pull up a chair." Scrooge has sort of lost himself here, and so like, you know what? You will sell me this land, or else. All right. Scrooge makes a deal, like, "Hey, you know what? Give you Chief Abe Lincoln." Fulu's like, "Okay, so rude. First of all, um, I'm, I'm I'm gonna act like I don't quite get the value here and just say like this is kind of insulting to my people, and my culture, and my religion." He doesn't care. Like, you will sell or else. All right. You speak of the future, man. Let's read the bones. And he's like, "Oh, gee, I see two young girls. They hang their head in shame and pity at his brother." And why? Foolish grab, like, because they watch him get his tail kicked out of here. All right. Scrooge doesn't care. He doubles down. He gets angry. He kicks the bones, and Scrooge is then kicked out while wrapped in a pig and got his hair all done in a culturally offensive way. Hortense laughs when Matilda sees it. He is not in a good mood. So he leaves. He goes down to the office, the trader's office, and he effectively has the village attacked, ransacked, burned. Right? And oh, Matilda tries to talk about like, "You've lost your head. Like, those savages are not going to treat me like a fool. He doesn't need freeloading relatives underfoot. Get back to the camp and stay out of the way." Matilda is devastated. Hortense is like, "It's time we made a decision." And as the men do their job, even this little guy right here, he's Scrooge is enjoying it. He's laughing. He's like, nobody mocks Scrooge McDuck. And Hortense and Matilda, like, this is a dark day for the Clan McDuck as they walk off, seeing the village in flames. Scrooge still hasn't quite seen what's going on. He hasn't quite realized what he's done, or at least he doesn't care. So, deciding to avoid possibly being uh, cursed with a voodoo spell, he slicks back his whiskers, puts on some new clothes, looks very much like someone we'll see in the future, and tricks Fulazula into selling away his village. All right. Scrooge walks off, feeling pretty good about himself, goes to see Hortense and Matilda, like, "Hey, I did it. And that just means more money for you to inherit someday. You can stop pretending to be outraged. You're just as greedy as everyone." And he sees a note. "Dear Scrooge, you must have had a hard life leaving home as early as you did, but you fought the world on its terms and won. We try to forgive how cranky and bitter that fight has made you, but there's never an excuse for dishonesty. We're going home to Duckburg. Join us if you change your ways. Matilda and Hortense." And now, ladies and gentlemen, begins a moment of absolute cinema. Scrooge sits there, holding the letter, crushing the letter even, and just staring off. He says, "Why should I have to be the only honest man in this cockeyed world? Even my inspiration, my first dime, came to me as a result of some bum in Glasgow cheating me with a worthless American coin." He's then met by the voice of his younger self, and that's why I promised to make my fortune square, to prove I'm better than bums like that. Scrooge counters back. Why can't I take shortcuts like everyone else? Klondike Scrooge comes in because only through honest, hard work that I earned my way in life. Scrooge, like, "It's not fair. Who died and left me in charge of morals?" And now he comes to somebody he can't lie to. He can't talk back to. Like, 10 centuries of McDucks, that's who. We passed down you the best reason to be honest: self respect. And he He, he can't. You once held honesty as your highest ideal. And what did you promise me on the very night I left you? That I'd always be true to myself. Roll the clip. So he's had the revelation. He's like, what have I done? I must catch up to my sisters and apologize and try to square things with that witch doctor if he'll even. Let's pause the progression and talk about this scene here. I love it. I read this scene like so many times in my reread for this. It's a great scene because this whole time Scrooge has sort of, as the letter says, the life he's lived, the fight he's had to do has made him hard and bitter and cranky. Like he's seen a bunch of other people make just as much, if not more, money, cheating people, taking shortcuts, not caring about the other person on the other side of the aisle making those deals, and it's frustrating. All right, he's had to see all these other people, make it doing it the exact opposite of what he's doing. All right, why should he have to keep playing the same game, at the same way when other people aren't? All right, and effectively, if you look at it, young Scrooge says like, "I needed to prove I'm better than bums like that." It's not a good enough reason. All right, it's only through honest hard work that I earned his way in life. I'm like, well, that doesn't matter. All right, and then Fergus says like, look, all right, it's about respecting yourself, about being true to who you are. All right, and he can't come up with a counter for that. It's great. He's sort of realized in this moment that he's betrayed everything he stood for, everything he's wanted to be, not just rich, but to be tougher than the toughies and sharper than the sharpies. All right, and to make it square. All right, he promises that was who he was. All right, it doesn't matter what other people think of him. It doesn't matter how he made it. What matters is who he is at his core. All right, and of course, it's appropriate that it's his dad, the one who, unbeknownst to him, arranged for him to get the coin, the one who took him uh, to the ruin to Castle McDuck to show him his family's history, the one who's always believed in him. His biggest fan says, "This isn't you." And of course, again, it's appropriate because, as I've said before, Fergus looks a lot like Don Rosa. And so, Don Rosa, the Scrooge hyperfan, has, found a way to sort of insert himself outly and naturally into the story in a perfect way. He creates a low point for his character, and he creates a low point for Scrooge and finds a great way to pull him out of it. Because this isn't a new thing. Right? This is based off like this whole story here. All right, and back to it. All right, this story here, this zombie isn't new. This is from Voodoo Hoodoo, a Donald Duck comic. All right, that whole story about Scrooge tricking someone, yeah, this is what happened. And first of all, I love this design. Yes, some people say like this is racist, this is culturally insensitive. I don't care. It is brilliant. He looks like Jacob Marley meets the ghost of Christmas Future. He's original sin personified. All right, this like Scrooge has betrayed, like he has ransacked an African village. He's cheated African leaders, and now he is being punished for it. I like it. I love it, and I love the eyes. All right, like it's like a void. All right. Also, he has what, 5 fingers? All right. I think he is the tallest human there, so it works. But anyway, so Scrooge is freaking out. Like, okay, all right. Fool Azula says yes, he will follow you wherever you go. He will exact punishment. She's like, okay, my only hope is to ruffle my whiskers back up and put on his specs and hope they won't recognize him. He grabs Scrooge by the neck, holds the voodoo doll, and he's like, wait a minute, I don't think this is you. No, you don't. So he goes off to leave. He goes off to leave. Like, okay, good. She was like, oh, thank heavens. He'll keep going, waiting to hand that voodoo to someone who looks like me in disguise. Anyway, I never have to worry about him again. Mwah, mwah, mwah. So anyway, next day, Scrooge goes in after failing to find Fool Azula. Like, I think Scrooge does want to square things. Like, hey, look, I'll give you the village back. I'll pay for the repairs. I'll probably never come back here again. I don't think there was ever another story in Africa after this. But anyway. So Scrooge goes to the Wambo Jambo train station. I do not believe that's an actual place. Where the station manager says, like, you just missed them. They took off. They took the train to the coast. Like, well, give me the next train there. Like, well, that train's headed north to join the Orient Express in Istanbul. The next train to the coast won't leave for a week. Now Scrooge is now conflicted because there's like, I want to square it with my sisters, but the Orient Express goes through continental Europe. Lots of business opportunities there. He can always catch up with his sisters a little later. He's like, what should I do? And the conductor's like, well, boat fares are cheaper from Europe. You're like, there we go. That works out. I love it. So now Scrooge begins his business detour. All right. So over the next year, Scrooge, he gets continually sidetracked, sells lawnmowers in the Sahara, salt in Egypt, rain hats in Aden, and so on from Turkey to Holland, while selling wind to windmill makers in Zuiderzee. Scrooge learns of a unique opportunity. So taking one last detour on his way to America, Scrooge stopped off in Greenland for a rendezvous on the polar ice cap to meet Robert Perry. He wants to fund or sponsor his reach to the North Pole. Why? For the most Mr. Burns plan ever. He intends to buy the North Pole. Every time anyone looks at a compass, he'll have to pay him a stiff royalty, not to mention the heavy surcharge he'll slap on kids' letters to Santa. This sounds a lot like Mr. Burns and the whole. Well, do we have the clip?
Beginning of time, man has yearned to destroy the sun. I will do the next best thing. Block it out.
Good God.
Imagine it, Smithers. Electrical lights and heaters running all day long.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, this is. This is some borderline cartoon villainy right here. And to be fair, Scrooge will do something like morally questionable later on, like in the Sunken City, when he wants to pay double for a specific year, for a specific quarter, and keeps one and dumps the rest in the ocean. Um, we we did raise the question as to how ethical that was, let alone legal. But anyway. So Perry's like, you know what? Yeah, we're not doing this. You can go. You can go. And Scrooge's like, yeah, you'll regret this. And as he walks off, like, oh God, it's Bombi the zombie. Like, hey, look, he runs off. Like, okay. So Fula Zula wasn't kidding. He'll follow me everywhere. So he takes off the hood. Like, look, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. You're like, oh, okay. He falls to a crevice and got sealed deep in the ice. Like, okay, we're good. So later, Scrooge acquires an invite to an invite to a big gala, a big how you do. So he finally acquires the final accoutrements that define Scrooge McDuck, the top hat and cane. Love it, love it. I've never seen a stick look so amazing, and I'm sure this didn't impact my fantasy future clothes anyway. So he has an audience with Tsar Nicholas II. All right, just it's a impending revolution sale. Everything must go. All right, he's here to buy as many Fabergé eggs as he can get. All right, and he hears about the legendary candy striped ruby. So like, oh, I got to get that. And so another detour after 2 years of investigating and investing throughout the Western Asia, Scrooge poses a horse trader in Bazukistan and finally acquired the candy striped ruby. All right. Love it. Now he's all set to go home, and you think we're feeling good. We're feeling good about ourselves. All right, well, we would, except for the fact that Scrooge now is responsible for the sinking of the Titanic. Because, well, so the ice that Bobby fell through, yeah, it became the glacier, it became the iceberg that hit the Titanic. Scrooge is directly responsible for the sinking of the Titanic. As Scrooge points out, that Bobby wants to shrink me or kill me, but even that would pale in comparison to the catastrophe he caused. oh, oh God, I love it. Oh. So Scrooge is able to escape that, and as he's walking through, like, a lot of ships have sunk over the years, meaning there's a lot of treasure down there. So He took some time to hunt for treasure on the Spanish Main. Then he traveled to South America, where he searched for sites for rubber plantations in Guinea, fighting 40-foot crocodiles for squatters' rights. He acquires the ability to swim through his money as he is pushed off a cliff onto one of the trains, and luckily, all those years of burrowing and playing in the money has enabled him to dive through it. I like his explanation because there's never any good explanation as to why he can fly, why he can swim through money. There isn't. There really isn't. But this one at least tries is like, well, as opposed to like the D-17, like spent years building up muscle and dexterity. I'm like, it's it's metal. You that's not how that works. But anyway, so he's able to trick brigands in Mongolia as he's transporting more cash through. As the years pass, he continued the global sweep along the Pacific Rim, establishing a thriving pearl trade using trained cormorants as divers. All of this is mentioned in Only a Poor Old Man, which we reviewed a while back. We'll leave a something there, like right here on the cormorant page. I say cormorant page so I'll know where when I edit this. Then, of course, he comes to an island where he makes a deal for their for coconuts that doesn't go through. But he finds Bombi again, and the chief's like, you know what? I can get rid of this zombie for you, or at least keep him here for a bit, in exchange for this candy stripe ruby. Scrooge wants to not do it, but then Bombi puts his hands around his throat, like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. So now Scrooge continues his work again. He's he keeps circling the globe again and again and again over the next 10 years. He's still going. He has not been home then. He arrived on Wall Street just after the great crash and managed to corner the market on everything by paying only pennies, a dollar, for hard-hit companies. Like, that's right, I'm buying. Using the cormorants as messengers, earning him the title of the Birdman of Wall Street. Not because he's a bird, but because he uses birds. I respect it. And finally, he comes home. After 27 years on the road, he's come home. So, in other words, it's been 34 years since. Yeah, 27. Yeah, 27. Yeah, because 34 years since he arrived in Duckburg. Cool. So, he has arrived, he is greeted by the citizens of Duckburg. Why? Well, because there's McDuck Foods, McDuck Oil, McDuck Electric, McDuck Tires, McDuck Ink, McDuck Paper, McDuck Hotels, McDuck Motors, McDuck Gas. Oh, he's running the automotive industry. All right. He makes tires, he makes motors, he has the gas. Oh, this is wild. This is wild. Even what widgets? Oh, look at that. A new Duckburg has turned out to greet its leading citizen, no longer a sleepy little shack town, it has now become a thriving and glorious city, its economy fueled by McDuck investments. He's given the key to the city, but Scrooge is not impressed. His hard-fought struggle for wealth in a world he believed to be populated by deadbeats and loafers had taken its toll. As he says, key to the city, I already owned all the locks. Love it. Home is a hunter home from the hill, but this hunter's heart was hardened to the forest creatures after 50 years on the hunt. Once the lad who shined shoes for 5 pence a pair on the streets of Glasgow would have been moved by pleas for help, but this was altogether a different Scrooge McDuck. Now, to be fair, these signs are not doing it for me either, alright? The world owes me a living. Help haven't eaten since lunch. Gimme. Fund to abolish funds. Aid to the lazy. Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't either. So Scrooge enters his office, alright, greeted by welcome homes and surprised by the entire staff and his sisters and his brother-in-law Quackmore, and Scrooge doesn't care. He walks right by them, alright, ignoring everything. Alright, Matilda's like, we can't believe you're really back. Hort is like, when we heard you were coming home, we said let bygones be bygones and come down to see you, which means they more than likely didn't come back. But anyway, so Hortense wants to reintroduce him to Quackmore, as well as the twins, Della and Donald. Get a good look at Della, kids. You won't see her again for a good number of years. Scrooge is still not listening, all right? He says, quack faster. I want booby traps installed outside. The hill is filthy with panhandlers. Quack faster tries, like, there's something else. Like, never mind. I want a complete audit of all the money in the bin on his desk within 10 minutes. All right, he slams the door. Hortense, not having it, says, like, just who do you think you are? How dare you treat us like this after we haven't seen or heard from you in 23 years? Fair. But Scrooge's like, no, you didn't grow up when I left home at 13 to support the lot of you. If you don't like what a hard life has made me, you can get out. And this is one of those moments where tempers flare. Hor's like, oh, we'll leave all right, but if you don't apologize right now, you'll never see us again. Scrooge's like, who cares? But you'll see me again if that odd is a cent short. Hortense, ushers everybody out. Matilda looks on as if like we shouldn't do this. Like we can't. But he's our brother, and it's true. It's true. At the end of the day, those three are the only ones who are going to remember what it was like growing up in Glasgow, growing up with their parents, with their Uncle Jake. You know, there'll be a time when there'll just be one of them left. At that. But anyway, young Donald stops, walks up, kicks Scrooge, and runs out. And she's like, "Why, you a little no-neck brat?" I'm like, to be fair, yeah, Donald does not have much of a neck. Come back here, I'll whale the tar out of you. Scrooge slams the door and, like, you know what? I don't need anybody. I don't need family or anything. As he sits down, the memories come flooding back. Playing with Matilda, you know, his mother in the garden, walking Hortense around, playing with his father, family dinner. In that moment, it all comes crashing down how much they mattered. He runs towards them, like runs after them, but he sees it. A poster of the rich as a surprise. To Mr. McDuck, congratulations. Today you passed the Maharaj of How Do You Stand. You made it. You're now the richest man in the world. And it's all gone. He's finally done it. The moment he's been waiting for ever since he shined that ditch digger's boots. Meanwhile, outside the money bin, all right, people walking out, not a single handout, what a tightwad. McDuck's unfair to deadbeats. One man says it must be great to be a Scrooge McDuck. He has everything. Matilda, tears in her eyes still, says Scrooge McDuck once had everything. Now all he has is money, and all that money can buy. As they walk out, as the sun's setting over the money bin, or is that just his sound effect? Scrooge yells, "I'm the richest man in the world, me!" Blah, ha, 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 ha. Great, great. Also, I love the signs here. No salesmen, no bill collectors, absolutely no zombies. And that's how the comic ends. Life and Times Screwdriver Chapter 11 is so good, so brilliant. All right, like I said, character progression are not something you do easy. You can't just go, okay, my character's here now. Like, well, why is he here now? How's he different from Chapter 1 that he is in Chapter 11? Most chapters go past 11. Most books go past 11 chapters, so it's not an issue here. But because it's all one big story, you have to sort of look at it. You can't go from A New Hope Luke to Return of the Jedi Luke. And more importantly, you can't go from Return of the Jedi Luke to Last Jedi Luke. I will always find a reason to trash that. But anyway. This here is great because, again, we see the progression of Scrooge, all right? From him leaving home at 13 to finding the Mississippi to meeting criminals in chapter 2, meeting, thieves, all right? People who at one point liked him when he didn't have any money, felt he was too good for them because he was rich and just sort of like trash talked him. We saw that. We saw we saw the Whiskervilles who were willing to kill Scrooge to get his money. We saw Flintheart Glumgold who tried to cheat him, who stole his gear to leave him to die in the Sahara. Okay, we see people who are willing to desecrate cultural monuments, steal cultural treasures, right, and leave people to die again. So it's no surprise that Scrooge has such a low opinion of people, because in his journey for success, he's met some really great people, you know, Ratchet and Gearloose, um, Howard Rockerduck. I'm sorry, John Rockerduck. Howard is his terrible son. um, John Flip Sousa. No, Gaby. I'm sorry. Um, Pecos Bill. But at some point, he just stopped meeting good people and only had to deal with the terrible ones. So it makes sense that his picture of humanity, of his fellow man, falls so hard. It works. Anyway. So again, Bombi the Zombie was introduced in the story of Voodoo Hoodoo. It's a Donald Duck story, which also reveals, the role Scrooge may or may not have played in that, which this story exemplifies. Rosa mentions that he had a lot of trouble trying to figure out how to sort of tell that story. He used an updated version of Bombi, which I think was for the best. Um, but like I said, I know some people find it offensive. I know Disney made the decision to ban the character, which inadvertently banned this chapter, which is again the epitome of stupid. I can't get over that because you banned chapter 11, which arguably is the most important chapter in the life of Scrooge. All right, it's the penultimate chapter. Effectively, you could end the story here. Luckily, he didn't. There's one more really good one, and to take that out, it first of all, you could have easily just put a warning label like, I hate to say it, the trigger warning, like, hey, heads up here. Something you're going to see here is from a different time period. It does not reflect anyone's current views now. There you go. All right. If you find this offensive, hey, look, don't read it. There you go. That's it. I still stand by the fact that Disney is still salty that Don Rose is turning out really, really good Disney comics, or Duck Comics as he calls them, because Disney has never really had a successful run with comics outside of Europe. Then, of course, we have Bombi the Zombie in D17, and oh my god, I hate this so much. I hate this so much. Okay, so in this one here, let's just shrink him down a bit. Let's just shrink him down a bit. There we go. Good, good. So this thing here, all right, awakens when someone becomes the richest man in the world. The idea is that no one deserves to be the richest man in the world. All right. So Louis acquires Scrooge's fortune due to a weird contest that was never properly talked about or explained upon outside of its initial challenge being made. And over the course of it, Louis wins the challenge by becoming Scrooge, by becoming the richest man in the world. Boobity boop. Honestly, that story was kind of fun. But the aftermath is sort of the idea that Bombi exists because no one deserves to be the richest man in the world. All right, it's only at the end when Louis and Scrooge shine Bombi's shoes that he like goes away, and it's so like it felt like the lesson was for both of them, both Scrooge and Louis, but it doesn't make sense, right? Because the idea that Scrooge legitimately made all those deals, he went out and earned the money, but D17 doesn't really care about Scrooge's past because they did the life and crimes of Scrooge McDuck, and it was just a bunch of villains making half half-ass justifications for the stuff they did. So I don't care. Like you had a great moment to explore Scrooge's character and his past all at once, and you didn't do anything with it. So yeah, this Bombi is terrible. He should never be brought back again. He looks like the Hulk and Solomon Grundy had a horrible one night stand they don't want to talk about. In terms of the 87, well, Bombi can't exist in 87 DuckTales. No. No. If they weren't going to show Flintheart Glumgold as being from Africa, they weren't going to go into African voodoo. So, no. Instead, really, Once Upon a Time just has Scrooge like, and I made more money, and I made more money, and I made more money, and I came to Duckburg to put the money in here. And what? What? Sisters? I never had sisters or any siblings. Right? I just had a McMama and a McPapa, and I sent them American money and no way to know how to use it. Alright? I didn't say I wanted them to move in with me. I didn't say anything. I didn't come back at all to see them. Don Rosa really should have decided to work with DuckTales. But just so we'd have had a better version of that. But I get why he didn't. But anyway, Della, meanwhile, gets her comic debut here, or at least one that matters. Della Duck is. You can't really complain about D17's Della Duck because there was really nothing before that. There was a comic in, I think it's in Dutch? Finnish? This is like, hey, she's traveling in space. As far as she knows, her kids haven't hatched yet. She doesn't realize it's been 10 years because of, traveling at the speed of light. Okay, fine. But comics before that, TV before that, did nothing with Della. As a matter of fact, her original name in the cartoons was Dumbella. Rose was like, that's a stupid name. I will call her Della. And he went with that, and we're all happy for it. All right. again, is what it is. There was nowhere to go but up with Duck. I remember Rosa did mention that he was a bit conflicted as to how he would reveal Duck, and why he never did really in later works, or the bigger mystery, who their father is. Right? There's no record of him at all. Like no one ever mentioned it. It is what it is. Rosa said that he had he only saw like two choices that didn't make sense. Either he reveals they're dead because it's the only real way to explain, hey, why the boys are living with their Uncle Donald instead of their parents, and that's just sad. Or he feels like, hey, they're alive, but then you have to carry to the next level. If they're alive, why aren't the boys living with them? So that means they would have to live with them, and now Donald doesn't have the boys with him every day. It's not the same. It ruins a much stronger dynamic. I like it because Rose is sort of like he's actually thinking about the consequences going forward. All right. And that's a really good moment to sort of create your own character. Again, there's no lore to contradict Della. All right. There's nothing. Or you can make her into anything, and D17 did. And same with whoever the father would be. You can do whatever you want. And he's like, no, that doesn't serve like the story. Even the life of Scrooge itself, Rose is not. He's like, you don't have to consider this canon. This is my own fanboy project. Me trying to put the timeline in order, put all the dates in an interesting story, and go from there. Donald and Della, of course, yeah, whew, I, they're twins. They're twins. I do like that. But at the end of the day, there's not much here because there isn't. Like the idea is like this is their introduction. They're presumably 10 years old, so that works because when we saw Hortense and Quackmore in the beginning of this story, she introduced Quackmore as her fiance. So that makes sense. That makes a degree of sense. I would say they couldn't be more than 10. Mrs. Quackfaster is a mainstay, all right, across pretty much multiple Duck incarnations. She's always been Scrooge's secretary. She's been Mrs. Quackfaster, Mrs. Typefast, Mrs. Featherby. All right, she's Mrs. Featherby here. Or I think she's Mrs. Featherby throughout most of the 87 DuckTales, so they've been consistent on that. She's a character that you don't realize how much you see her until you really think about it. But she's had some like fun little side stories. Like some days Scrooge cannot he can't trust the bin being run without her there. Something he can't function without her. Like it's weird. If you had to like pick someone not Goldie for Scrooge, it would have to be Quackfaster. I'm sorry, Burger McBridge fans. You just no, no. She's trying too hard. All right. But at the same time, I can see her just like, not interested. Like, no, no, I like my job. I like being a single career woman. There you go. I mean, she's effectively right hand to the richest man in the world. All right, she like the only way to rise higher would actually be to marry him. She's like, no, I don't do that. I don't do that. No, I got standards. I got standards. Sister's doing it for herself. And of course, the D17, I don't dislike this design. I actually would have liked if more was done with her as a character. All right, because she did feel like Scrooge, like, no, no, ride or die. Like, no, if Mr. McDuck needs somebody taken care of in his office, he calls me. He doesn't have to call me, he gives me a look. And I know that person needs to leave. All right. She's trusted to look over the McDuck archives. It all works in a lot of ways in my mind. I just wish more was done with her. Right? This is actually might be one of the designs I have the least complaints about. Actually, are there any designs from D17 I dislike? Mm, that's a video idea. All right. But either way, I just wish we saw more of her. So yeah, that is The Life of Scrooge, Chapter 11. Empire Builder from Calisota. It is big, it's bombastic, it's dark, it's character driven. All right, to see the the 13-year-old boy who left America so happy and optimistic, to then see him come to America. Honestly, you can go to part two when he steps on to American soil off the boat. And he's so happy and optimistic, like there's money to be made, there's opportunity, there's dreams. Now he's coming in, he's like, I hate everybody here. He's he just sees all this laziness, like these people just asking for money. Like, no, you've got working legs. Go make some money. It works, and I love Bombi. I will die on the hill that Bombi the zombie did nothing wrong. Now, people of African cultures who find this offensive, I'm not going to argue with you. You have a right. That's how you feel. If it's culturally inaccurate, so be it. So be it. But let's not act like Disney's always been culturally accurate. Pocahontas. Oh, where was that? Some truth in my throat. Anyway, with that in mind, just to close you. If you are new to the Bug Thank you, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, smash the thumbs up button. What did you guys think about it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section. I'll catch you all later. This is the Bug Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.